Welcome back. Let's talk mental health now. Almost 1 in 10 teenage deaths in South Africa every single year is the result of suicide. That's out of 700,000 people that take their lives every year. Now, according to the World Health Organization, those are the stats that are seemingly the reality in the world, in our country, in our continent. And this week marks Teen Suicide Prevention Week to raise awareness on the prevention of teen suicides. Now, Spark School says it's got a unique approach to help in troubled teenagers who may think of committing suicide. And to unpack this even further, let's bring in Ofentse Molefe, Assistant Principal at Spark School. Ofentse, thank you so much for your time and good afternoon to you. Let's talk about the factors contributing to suicidal teenagers in schools. What are some of them, according to your findings?
Well, Tamela, there's a variety. We do know that teenagers go through a lot of pressure. There's social media. We have socioeconomic background where teenagers are from, pressure in school, the absent parent in the household. We also have a high expectation of academics or an academic standard. There's a variety, but seeing this year, these previous years, the most predominant factor is social media. And so societal standards, identity, so sexual identity, and how scholars are just unable to live up to these standards that are set by their friends, by the community at large, as well as their families.
Yeah. And I mean, I suppose we also saw a lot of reports of, teenagers, young pupils committing suicide, even in school premises, right? And that is a concern. Yeah. And I just wonder, how then can teachers and principals identify suicidal behavior in scholars, especially teenagers in schools?
Well, there isn't a template, We do know that depression lately does not look like the sad child in the corner who is timid or who's not assertive. It looks like the child who is loud, who comes off happy. So there isn't like a template, but what we know for sure is to check up on the strong scholars. So you'll find that the very ones that are loud, the very ones who are always happy, are the ones that are battling with a lot of anxiety that can lead to suicide. It's also creating a safe space. I think what Spark Schools does really well is to create a safe space for scholars. And this is in the establishment of numerous principals. And at our high school, believe it or not, we've got like five principals. And so each one has a role to play. And we have the scholar support principal that assists scholars in this regard. So I myself am a scholar support principal, and it's not only looking at the timid child, but it's also looking at scholars who are loud. So checking in, that's what we do a lot of the times, checking in with our scholars and just having a one-on-one connection and relationship with them that assists us quite a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's equally important for parents to work alongside you as teachers, as the kids, and the pupils' primary caregivers in school when we're talking suicide. So what are some of the ways which you can suggest to parents watching our conversation right now in terms of how they can play a role in having those productive conversations about suicide with their young ones?
It's important for parents to be soft. And by soft, I don't mean that they need to not have any form of managing skills that are managing scholars at home. But by that, I mean that it's important that parents come down to their level. Checking in with our children is very important, and not just on a school level, how a school, but it's delving deep and really knowing and trying to understand who they are. I think a lot of the times we are so caught up on the hustle and bustle of just doing work and being a parent that we forget to check in mentally with our children and also find the cues. There's always something that tells you that a teenager has withdrawn. It could be a pattern of behavior, so sitting in the room for too long or constantly playing music. So that withdrawal is a hint as well. But also another thing is that one thing that we don't do well as parents is equip ourselves on mental health. What does it look like? What is mental health? How do we see the illnesses or mental illness? What are the hints of depression, of anxiety? I think a lot of the times we've kind of learned that these things don't exist, and we just we coin it as AMA 2000 and their illnesses, and you're just acting up. So I think another thing is to be well equipped on what anxiety and depression is and how that can affect children in the long run, not only on an academic level, but emotionally as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you speak to also the issue around, parents, or at least some of them, being dismissive to it as just childish, immature, adolescent, prima donna behavior, where there could be really underlying issues to take notice of. Now, we spoke about the parents, but what about communities, Ofentse? How can also communities team up and work with schools to combat and fight against teen suicide?
I think when you ask me that question, the first thing is awareness. We shy away from suicide because we think that our kids will commit suicide once we start talking about suicide. But it gives them a sense of recognition, it gives them a sense of belonging, and that's what they need. I think it's very important that churches, clinics, schools, away from just the everyday instructional delivery and pedagogical knowledge that they're trying to impart, that they play a part in creating that safe environment, even if it's on a Saturday afternoon, where we gather and teach the community as well as children what suicide is, what is mental health. So that on its own plays a part in our community. So the awareness of it makes it easier for scholars or for children to come to the fore and actually say that, I think I've experienced this, what then do I do? So working with schools, working with great institutions that are community focused to be socially relevant. And the social relevance here is that to combat things like bullying that can lead to suicide as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When you talk about suicide, I also think about our communities and how hurt and bruised they themselves are. That awareness can also be equally healing, I think, for community members as they try to also impart that, information to young teenagers. But before I let you go, Spa School, I'm sure you're doing all you can to educate scholars about suicide. What are you doing also to help in preventing suicide?
Well, I think this is at the heart of what I do because I am, like I said, a principal of scholars. So there is what we call CQ, which stands for Character Quotient. This is a curriculum that is just specific to the high school. We teach about how scholars can be their best selves to other people as well as themselves, how to recognize and regulate their emotions, and how that can equip them to being global citizens. So that also assists in recognizing how they feel and doing something about it. We also have the scholar support officers. So that's like at the heart of Spark and supporting educators as well as children as a whole. So where a scholar can walk into a space, it doesn't even look like a desk and a chair. It's full of bean bags where a scholar can actually cry their heart out to that particular individual, even if it's a teacher or a principal, and that's where it starts. So creating that support, equipping educators as well is at the center of our flywheel, basically. So what that means is that every Monday, our teachers are equipped on these social ills that are prevalent in our society, so that they themselves can tackle this in the classroom as well. So professional development every Monday. Our offices are open. Scholar support offices are very child-friendly, as well as the CQ curriculum that really equips scholars in recognizing their emotions and being able to be aware of that and basically imparting that into their relationships with others as well as society.
Well, I appreciate you speaking about this, Ofentse, and also assisting as Spark School to help save a pupil's life. Thank you for doing all you can and taking that initiative forward. Ofentse Molefe, Assistant Principal at Spark School, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.